I will call this Tigard City Council and Local Contract Review Board meeting to order. Deputy City Recorder Raimundo, please call roll.
Councillor Wolf.
Here.
Council President Hu.
Here.
Mayor Lube.
Here.
Youth Councillor Vogel.
Here.
Councillor Shaw.
Here.
And Councillor Singh. Thank you.
Thank you. If everyone will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Council or Tiger teammates, any non-agenda items this evening?
No non-agenda items for us, but just a call out that we are recommending that item 6, the resolution, be moved to December 12th and removed from tonight's agenda.
Yep, I agree with that. Is there any concern about moving that agenda item to December 12th? Okay, seeing none, we will consider that done. We are moving on to public comment. If you'd like to provide public comment by the phone or by video, please call in now to get into the queue. The phone number is 503-966-4101. And we will start with follow-up to previous public comment with Assistant City Manager Nyland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kathy Nyland. I am one of the Assistant City Managers here, and I'm going to give you an update on previous public comments. So at the November 14th Council meeting, we had 2 people provide written comments and 1 person spoke in person. Both the written comments were about the Marlin Henderson Community Grant Program. City Council's discussion about that community grant program resulted in directing the 20% allocation of marijuana taxes be added to the Social Services Fund rather than a separate committee being formed. Council also requested that the city manager identify another appropriate way to recognize former Councilor Henderson's many contributions. That update has been shared with those who weighed in. The in-person comment was about the proposed rental registration program and the potential impact on increased rents. The community member did receive a response from the city, which included more information about the program, and we also provided information about the outreach that has been done to this point, and we will continue providing information about that program. That is my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We did not receive any written public comment by noon yesterday. And Deputy City Recorder Raimundo, has anybody signed up for public comment in person?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. Network Administrator Bang, are there any phone callers in the queue or any video, anyone wishing to comment by video today?
And there are no callers in the queue, Mayor. And I don't believe we have anybody signed up for video testimony.
Okay, if for some reason that changes, please let me know. We will move on to the City Manager report with City Manager Reimer.
Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, councilors, members of the community, and my teammates. Just a few updates for you. We previously spoke about we have a series of leaf and food collection at Cook Park, and so we had a recent one 2 weekends ago. And just to report that we ended up with over 450 cars as our final count, so it was an active day, and we're anticipating even more in the upcoming events with all the leaves on the ground now. So thanks to all of our teammates for their efforts in making that work and for also collecting food on behalf of our local food pantry. We're doing a lot of work, as you know, in trying to address climate change, which is one of your main goals, and just a few things to report. The first is we have a new page on our website, Solar PV in Tigard. It's really a chance to share different resources, talk about highlights, or highlighting different projects, and make sure that our residents and contractors have the links to those resources as well. So that's a key thing. The second one is excited to talk about some of the electric vehicles or hybrids that we've been purchasing. So over a year ago, we put an order in for 5 of the Ford Lightning, which is their all-electric vehicle. And I was surprised to learn just today that we actually just received 3 out of the 5. And so that's great news because we had no idea when they would be arriving. So 3 of those are here now. We also have 2 new Chevy Bolts that arrived in the last couple of weeks. And then we have a full-size electric van on order and 8 hybrid police vehicles as well. So just trying to do what we can to continue to look at our fleet and other purchasing to advance your goal and focus on the environment and our climate. And then just a reminder that we have our charging stations that are now open. They've been open for a while, but just a reminder that those are there as well for the community to use. Kind of switching gears a little, but still staying right in line with some of your core values and key things that you want us to accomplish. Los Empresarios de Tigard. We have our event, our monthly event this week from 6 to 8 at the Tigard Library. So this is the workshop that all of you are aware of, give Spanish-speaking entrepreneurs the information that they need. And my understanding from Tina is that it's not just individuals from Tigard, but regionally people come to this event now because it's getting to be known as a place to learn about different resources and processes. A couple things happening at our library, just to discuss. There's many things happening there. This Thursday we have our coffee and conversation from 9 to 10. That's where we have the coffee and light breakfast, and all are welcome just to talk with our teammates and get to know them and talk with each other. And then recently we had the Holocaust Remembrance that is now available on YouTube. And so for those of you that want to see it that weren't able to be there, you can see that on YouTube. And then just a final thing, I want to thank our IT director, Maya, many other teammates as well, Kathy and many others that are in this room and elsewhere in the organization for all their work on Tyler. There's been a lot of things that we've learned over the course of the last, I'd say 6 to 8 months. And so we will be coming back with an update for you. But I just want to let you know that the work that they've been doing, I think we've really stepped back a little and said, let's make sure that we have a well-planned and efficient process, make sure we're really focusing on investing the resources that you've provided to us wisely, and that change management for our team, but also the community is a high priority, because without doing this right, obviously, we'd have issues down the line. So I do want to thank Maya for bringing kind of a renewed spirit and focus on Tyler internally, which is only going to benefit us as a team as well as the community. And so more to come on that, but just a quick thanks to her and others for that. So that concludes my remarks tonight.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the report? Yeah, Councilor Shaw.
Great update. Thank you. So many great things happening in the community, and great about the solar website and also the electric vehicles. I wonder if there's an opportunity to do like a demonstration or just a show and tell, maybe sometime towards the spring or summer if the cars are available and the trucks, just because a lot of people haven't seen what an electric vehicle looks like and don't really know that they're not very much different than what a gas vehicle looks like. So maybe we could partner with another nonprofit, but just thought that could be a great opportunity to educate the community on the great purchases. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
And maybe get that Portland electric garbage truck here to show off. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is used for routine items, including minutes and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements. Information in each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. Items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have the Vactor Flush Sewer Cleaner Truck. Are there any questions or comments or a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion is adopted by unanimous vote of the council present. Again, item number 6 has been moved to December 14th, and so we will move on to the next item, which is the Community Development Projects Quarterly Update with Community Development Director Kenny Asher. I don't see him online.
Thanks for your patience. Just give us 1 minute.
I assume Mr. Asher was expecting us to be later because of the agenda item that we moved. Well, I mean, we can talk about events coming up. We have the Christmas or the holiday tree lighting this Friday at 6:45 in Liberty Plaza. I believe we also have a Hanukkah menorah lighting Universal Plaza. I don't remember the dates. Does anybody have that? You're up, Mr. Asher.
I'm so sorry.
Welcome.
Thank you. Are you running ahead of schedule?
We moved an item on you.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Thank you for the chat, Emily. Hello. It's nice to see you. You know that I'm Kenny Asher. I'm your Community Development Director, and I'm happy to be here tonight to give you our quarterly report, which maybe you've grown used to by now. Same format. It's always really nice for me to be able to share much of what the Community Development Department is up to. I usually begin these by reminding everybody that although these updates cover a lot of what we're doing in the department, they don't cover all of it, and that's because half the department is busy every day making sure that contractors and homeowners and businesses are getting their permits, building safely, and expanding Tigard's economy by improving the habitable spaces that altogether comprise this amazing city that we call home. And tonight I'd like to go one step further, and I guess it's good that one of your items got moved because I'm going to be a little longer than usual tonight. I want to thank one group in that unrecognized part of my department, and that's our inspections team, which is small but mighty and expertly professional in how they conduct city business day in and day out. Part of the reason you don't hear about these gentlemen is because they do their work so well, which is why your phones aren't ringing, and neither is mine, with frustrated City of Tigard permit customers. We don't have any or many of those. So far this year, this team has completed more than 13,000 inspections on construction that represents more than $200 million of new value in the city. And so I'd like to start by thanking our two building inspector ones, David Young and Richard Stark, our building inspector 2, Aaron C.O. Goebel, our senior inspectors, Don Sylvester and Jeff Grove, and the supervisor of that team, also a member of my departmental management team, and that's Walter Chip Barnett. You know, just as I was putting the sort of polish on this presentation tonight, as it happens, an email came through. It was from Skylar Warren, who you know, our senior planner, to Chip and Mark Van Domelen, our building official who oversees Chip and that whole department. And I'm going to read a little bit of this to you because it's just serendipitous the way these things sometimes happen. Skylar wrote, Chip and Mark, I just got a call. This came in at 5:24. I just got a call from somebody who I won't name who built an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, on 79th a couple of years ago. She was calling with some questions about the possibility of doing some development on another lot she owns, but she spent a lot of time telling me about what a positive experience she had building her ADU in Tigard and how that shapes how she thinks about doing more development moving forward. She was particularly complimentary of the building inspection team, said they went out of their way to be helpful and assistive rather than just policing the build. She said one inspector even dropped by without an appointment to check in to see how it was going after he had filled them originally ended up passing them on the spot. She said her builder was astounded at the service they received here, as he primarily works in other jurisdictions. We get these from time to time. Most people, even when they get good service, don't bother to write, so we really appreciate this kind of correspondence. I think this is typical, and I wanted to share that with council, and fortunately I had the microphone tonight, so I've gone and done that.
Can I actually add something onto that?
Yeah.
That, you know, when I started on council and did a bunch of different tours, I actually went out with the inspectors. And if you hadn't had the opportunity to shadow, it's incredibly cool to see the process and also the different things and the different types of buildings they're looking at. And so I would just encourage you to do that. Just also to see what's being built in Tigard. And they were incredibly knowledgeable about the million different things that I had no idea about. So thank you.
They're very happy to take you around, and it is an education. We do it in the department. I'll finish by saying that is just one of many teams at the City of Tigard, not just in my department, but in every department that keeps this city running as well as it does. And I know that you share my appreciation for the entire Tigard workforce. They make it possible for my fellow directors and me to focus on the strategic direction and policy approach necessary to run the city well. And so now I'd like to share some of that direction and approach as it shows up in our more high-profile community development projects. Thank you for indulging my lengthy intro. Okay, you know the routine here. We'll go to the next slide and begin sort of running through some of these projects. I won't read the slides. You can see that in the light gray are past milestones. In the black are milestones that are either happening now or upcoming. And I won't describe the project. I'll just talk about what we've been up to recently and what we're getting ready to do in the next quarter. So we'll begin with a dry but important project, and that's the state's new rules for how we regulate off-street parking so we don't lock ourselves into a future with continued excessive carbon emissions. We began work to comply with the climate-friendly and equitable community rules shortly after their adoption in 2022, and you might recall that Council repealed minimum parking requirements about a year ago, as was required by the Phase 1 rules. Phase 2 was to provide additional parking lot standards related to tree canopy, pedestrian access, electric vehicle charging, and greenhouse gas reductions. And we originally expected Phase 2 to be adopted, those rules, prior to June 30th, but it was DLCD, actually, the Department of Land Conservation and Development at the state, that decided their agency needed more time with those rules. They created a rules advisory committee. They asked Skylar Warren, who I've already mentioned, to participate in that committee, no surprise to me, and made technical corrections. And after the additional 5 months of modifications, we're now prepared to bring those Phase 2 code amendments to you, and I believe they are scheduled to be heard next week. Next slide. We'll stay with Mr. Warren's projects. This is River Terrace 2.0. Metro approved the urban growth area swap this summer, and after they did so, we prepared a scope of work for the community plan and assembled funding necessary to complete that work. It is a lot of work. It is going to be funded through a $700,000 grant from Metro, an additional $127,000 grant from DLCD, and we have other grant awards potentially still to come. We issued a request for proposals in October. We are now in the process of selecting a consultant team to plan the zoning and infrastructure and housing and carbon responsible standards and financing for this new area. And we will also begin the process to annex these areas concurrent with that planning, which will shorten the overall development timeline. Next slide. And I guess I'm hoping that you'll hold your questions until I get through all of these, if you have any. Tenant protections, you heard about this recently. You know that we recently met with the City of Gresham to learn about their rental registration and inspection program. We have prepared draft code amendments. We're now workshopping our proposal with stakeholders, including Multifamily Northwest, who we heard from right around the time of our presentation to you, along with property owners, managers, and builders. Based on council guidance, we're working to resolve remaining policy questions, hoping to bring an adoption package to council in early 2024. And should council enact this program, we would roll it out slowly to give everyone plenty of notice. Likely that program would be recommended to go into effect in 2025, 2024 being a very slow ramp up. So we'll see what happens there early next year. Next slide, please. Tigard Home. This is a very lengthy legislative project to begin introducing more different kinds of uses into our residential zones, which is most of the city of Tigard, especially west of the Triangle and Highway 217. Over the summer, we hosted 3 pop-up food truck events in some Tigard neighborhoods where we don't normally get a lot of engagement on our community development projects. I'm very happy to report that we were able to talk with almost 200 people through those events about this project. We're in a long phase now, focused on building relationships and trust with the community and looking for potential members for a future committee. As we've told you and we'll kind of say again and again, this is a very sensitive topic because people are very sensitive about what gets built near their homes. So we will need to take a long time to make sure that we build a constituency around these ideas. Let's see. In October, thanks to Hope Pollard's good work, we were awarded a $50,000 Metro grant to help us make our outreach more equitable by, among other things, acquiring interpretation and translation services. In the coming months, we'll continue to host regular community events and meetings that begin to get into the code and map revisions. And of course, we'll be providing regular updates to the Planning Commission and to City Council. Next slide. A similar legislative project, this one focusing on modernizing our industrial zones. We've been writing draft code language for these new zones and also for Washington Square, the regional center, since there is significant overlap between those two projects. And we've continued to talk about these projects with interested property and business owners. We're planning on hosting 5 or 6 sessions in December to review the public draft of the code with interested parties and property owners. All affected business and property owners will be notified about opportunities to comment, and following the public review of that draft code, once again, we'll bring it to Planning Commission and City Council. There is a process that we use here. Public, Planning Commission, Council, and then we go and do it again. Next slide. As mentioned, Washington Square Regional Center, also looking at a code update. We've made progress on the draft zoning and code amendments, and after much discussion with state agencies, are pursuing a regional center boundary change. When I say regional center, I'm referring to the metro designated area as part of the regional planning framework. That simplifies required transportation analysis and aligns the regional center boundary with the city's plan district boundary. Sounds like an easy thing to do. We should just be able to flip a switch, but no, anytime you get into land use planning in Oregon, there's a lot of process you have to go through. We are in that process. We are creating existing and new boundary maps to share with Washington County and Beaverton, and we will then take them to, all together now, Planning Commission, City Council for review and approval, followed by the release of a public review draft about those amendments. Okay, that gets us through the legislative projects. If we go to the next slide, we'll shift gears a little bit and talk about Tigard's Energy Resiliency Initiative. This is a grant-funded project through FEMA that you've heard about, which will enable us to study how solar and storage systems can make Tigard more resilient. We are partnered with PGE and the Energy Trust of Oregon on this, along with PAE Engineers. That's a leading energy efficiency engineering firm based in Portland. Tier 1, which you see here on the slide, refers to a study that would create a microgrid at the Tigard Library, which would enable our Emergency Operations Center to function in a power outage and would also power the building off the electrical grid and even return some power to the grid. That's the idea of a microgrid. That study is complete, and the microgrid project is being cost estimated now, and we will share the results of all that at Council's upcoming workshop in January. Next slide, please. The Red Rock Creek Trail Implementation Plan Alignment Study. In October, our stakeholder working group selected a preferred trail alignment that allows us to study that alignment further for things like access and cost and constructability. So we're moving slowly toward something that can be built. There will be a chance for public review of that alignment this winter. We're expecting a final report on this project from our consultants in February. That report will include an implementation plan, which will identify opportunities for completing segments, which happens through adjacent development, happens through easement acquisition, the prioritization of projects in the triangle for that portion of the trail, and also through CIP, Tigard CIP construction planning. Let's move now to economic development, where we try to figure out how to kind of roll some things up into a simple slide. This quarter, we're going to talk about the loan fund that we created, business support. So if we go to the next slide, I can tell you a little bit about the Tigard Impact Fund. You might recall in 2022, council allocated $400,000 from the city's pandemic relief funds to leverage the creation of a business loan fund that would lend at least $1.2 million to Tigard-based firms owned by people who traditional lending institutions have historically neglected. Last July, we selected Business Impact Northwest as our lending partner to administer and market the Tigard Impact Fund. I think Lloyd Purdy and a representative from Business Impact Northwest came and spoke with you a couple of months ago. They are now, Business Impact Northwest is now meeting with local banks to build a referral base and seeking out business owners who don't qualify for traditional commercial loans. So far, 6 businesses have inquired about the fund or started an application. We are currently marketing that fund through social media, advertisements in Tigard Life, and direct mail. And in the next slide, we talk about another pretty high-profile economic development initiative. We are still getting media inquiries about the work we've done in this space. The business incubators, the Opportunity Cafe and Launchpad. I believe you know this. We've been managing 2 business incubators the past few years to help BIPOC entrepreneurs start businesses that fill the gap that's commented on by many Tigard residents, and that is the need for more locally owned restaurants. The Opportunity Cafe at the Tigard Public Library and the Launchpad at Universal Plaza are both succeeding in this goal. They aren't restaurants yet. However, they appear to be on their way, some of them. In October, we helped Michelle Cruz launch her new business at the Opportunity Cafe at the Tigard Public Library. I saw a few of you there. And at the Launchpad at Universal Plaza, Juliana Mosley of Harvest Moon was recently featured in a newspaper article as the first sangria bar in the state of Oregon. Ms. Mosley is expanding to a brick and mortar location on Main Street near Fano Creek, below the Senate Game Bar. This is exactly what we hoped would happen. Based on the success of the Launchpad, interest from residents, support from the current entrepreneurs, and the existing infrastructure that we built at Universal Plaza, we're now close to adding a 3rd operator at the plaza. That 3rd cart, unlike the first 2, will be privately owned, not subsidized by us directly. And speaking of good food downtown and Main Street, we'll go to the next slide. I think you're all aware that the Town Center Development Agency purchased the Ava Rosteria property and remediated the groundwater contamination through an EPA brownfield grant many years ago, allowing us to sell it to Ava Tigard LLC in 2018. And Ava is well underway with their 3-story, 22-unit mixed-use project right on Main Street, only happening because the TCA board, that's all of you, took several actions along the way to keep this development alive. I just want to say thank you again and again. This wouldn't be happening otherwise. The most recent intervention was a $300,000 development assistance grant that is helping to defray site work costs that were unknowable and very expensive to deal with. I know you remember. I am certain that you've all been watching the construction, as I have, with great anticipation. The development team just recently installed their water meter. They're focused now on interior improvements. Construction is on target for completion in March, last I heard. I know they're in a hurry to finish, open up. It's always good to have a grand opening to look forward to. It's one of my rules in community development. Okay, speaking of grand openings, we'll go to the next slide. This is likely the last update I'll be doing on the Alongside Senior Housing project, as we had a wonderful grand opening ceremony a couple of weeks ago. It was great to see so many people there. Leasing continues. I understand there are still units available to rent in this project for seniors. The Senior Center also had a grand reopening. It was so nice to see so many in our community back together again at the Senior Center. Currently, we're exploring the possibility of adding solar panels to this building. The original project had planned for them, but ended up being infeasible. We're hoping to add panels to other affordable housing projects in Tigard as well, using programs and incentives under the Inflation Reduction Act. And we're also working out final details of our shared maintenance agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives. So we're wrapping it up, putting the bow around it, and then we'll just be enjoying having this project in our community. Next slide is downtown parking, the goal of which is a management plan that balances the needs of downtown employees and residents with the needs of visitors and customers. We last shared survey results with council back in April. We've since convened 4 meetings with our downtown parking committee, collected updated parking data in August, which did show a slight uptick in parking usage of public spaces downtown. And it also showed plenty of parking still available downtown. Maybe not exactly where people want that parking, but it is there. Anyway, the committee is continuing its work with the goal of having recommended code changes ready for council consideration in the spring, which will pave the way for new parking enforcement measures in our growing downtown district. We're chipping away. Next slide, please. Downtown Reimagined is a planning project that will result in updates to our comprehensive plan, transportation system plan, and development code to help us attract and allow downtown development that's consistent with our newest council goals and city strategic goals. And as with all of our legislative projects, we've done considerable outreach to committees. We've held multicultural focus groups. And in this case, we've conducted developer interviews. You might recall from our council update this past September. Right now, we're reviewing the final recommendations and the draft development code amendments, which will be presented to council in February with a return date for adoption planned for in the spring. Oh, yes, and of course, Planning Commission. Nick Wilson Memorial Plaza is the next slide. I know that you have been tracking this one. We spoke with you about it recently. We've spoken with many in the community about this project. We've had a high-level concept for this public space since 2014, almost 10 years, along with the easement and property strip from the adjacent property owners, which are necessary to build this project. A design and engineering team led by Knott Studio began work back in March, and we've since completed the survey, the arborist report, the geotechnical reports, and of course you'll recall that Knott Studio came up with a couple of design options. Those have now been extensively reviewed by the community. In fact, we received more than 500 responses to our online survey, and fortunately they revealed that, like council, the community preferred the less complex option number 1, which is the one that's shown on the slide here, that doesn't cantilever over the creek. And so we're moving that option forward, and it'll go into schematic design, which is necessary for us to obtain a cost estimate, and from there we will move into design development and land use review, still at least a year away from construction, if we can put the funding all together. From downtown to the Tigard Triangle, we'll go to the next slide. Happy to report that we have another affordable housing project to be excited about in the Triangle. The 85-unit affordable housing project by Reach CDC is called Dartmouth Crossing North, and since my last update, they have broken ground. You might recall authorizing $1 million in development assistance for this project, which helped make it happen. A second phase is planned for across Clinton Street, and that phase was recently awarded a federal earmark to study a possible commercial or community space on the ground floor. The first phase is expected to wrap up in about 14 months. We're also currently finalizing an agreement for Reach to build off-site pedestrian improvements. That means improvements, sidewalk improvements, that are outside their property lines to connect residents to 72nd Avenue. I know you've heard me talk about that one a few times. I'll have to get more information from Sean Farrelly about where we are in that. It's unusual for a developer to do more than what they have to do, but this is a community development corporation. It's good to work with them. Quick update on the Family Promise project, which is the next slide. In March, you approved yet another $1 million development assistance award to Family Promise of Tualatin Valley, and that led to an agreement in June and FPTV's acquisition of the former Quality Inn in the Triangle later that month. In a further show of support, about 10 staff from my department spent one lunch hour one day in September helping to clean up the grounds and landscaping around the building just to welcome Family Promise and its new residents into Tigard. The building is now named A Bridge to Home. It's currently home to 70 households. Renovations for a new kitchen will begin soon. Those are partially funded with the Tigard Development Assistance Award. One recent bummer development, we learned that due to the property's change of use and the age of the building code does require that Family Promise install sprinklers. That's a significant and unanticipated cost for Family Promise. On to transportation now. We're getting there. Electric mobility and curbside management strategy. We didn't put all the words on the slide. This has been a very long road to reach the start of this project. You see that the grant award was made in September of 2021. That is 26 months. TGM, that stands for Transportation and Growth Management Grants, it's a program, joint program between ODOT and DLCD, so a state program, notorious for lengthy purchasing and procurement review by those agencies. However, I think this project must set a new record for wait time. At least I hope it does, because it has been over 2 years from award to contract. However, happily, ODOT has now signed off on the scope of work and just sent us the intergovernmental agreement. We're planning on bringing that IGA to you on January 9th. I pray that you approve it so that we may begin. This project will give Tigard a roadmap for supporting the electrification of more and more light and heavy vehicles in Tigard, which is necessary for us to bring down greenhouse gas emissions from our transportation sector, which at 41% is 41% of our total city emissions, is the largest contributor to our air and climate pollution. And it's actually the largest contributor to statewide greenhouse gas emission. So transportation has to be solved. Fortunately, there's technology now to be able to solve it. Cities like ours have to get ready to be able to support electrification. And we also need to prepare for the conversion of that personal vehicle fleet from internal combustion to electric. If the state meets its emission reduction goals, 50% of new vehicles sold in this state by 2030 will be zero emissions, and that percentage rises to 90% by 2035. So the state has rules and laws in place and coming. The EVs are coming, and we need to be prepared for that. The planning will also create a curbside management strategy for the Tigard Triangle to support equitable and efficient use of a limited resource, and that's public space at the curb, which is seeing more and more demand and competition from rideshare vehicles, bike parking needs, EV charging, restaurant seating, and household deliveries. Next is another transportation project or program to share with you, and that's Safe Routes to School. Now in its 7th year, we've reached record high participation at Walk and Roll Day in May, and continuing to expand in-person education to include folding scooters and scoot bikes for younger students. We're finally beginning to see Safe Routes-driven infrastructure improvements at Tigard schools, including $750,000 for improvements near Metzger Elementary, $2 million in improvements near Templeton and Tualatin. You can see on the slide that back in May, we were awarded another 3-year Metro Regional Transportation Option grant to continue our high-performing program. That's how this program has been funded in Tigard all along from year 1. We just wrapped up our fall programming at Durham Elementary, where we connected with 190 second and 5th graders, and in Tigard and Tualatin, where we had 2 bike rodeos. We also had our first Safe Routes core team quarterly meeting with Tigard Tualatin School District and Tigard staff. You'll recall we have a new IGA with TTSD, starting to operationalize that. And if you haven't seen it, please be sure to check out the Bustastic school bus safety video, recently produced by our Safe Routes School coordinator, Hendrik Brockelshen, and the Tigard Police Department. And now, speaking of Hendrik, I want to personally thank him and publicly thank him for his amazing contributions to Tigard's Safe Routes program these past few years. Hendrik has accepted a position at the City of Portland's, the Mayor's office in the City of Portland. This is the 2nd Safe Routes to School coordinator we've lost to Portland City Hall. We're doing a great job here, and people take notice. Hendrick's last day is tomorrow. We are sending him off at Cooper Mountain Ale House in downtown tomorrow evening, so all Hendrick Brockelschen fans are more than welcome to join. And if you have anyone in your network, you or anybody listening, who you think might make a great Safe Routes coordinator in Tigard, please give them my name and email address. Next, and last in transportation, an update on our Complete Streets work. We continue to receive recognition and pursue innovation in our Complete Streets approach, all based on the Complete Streets policy adopted in June of 2019 from Federal Highway Administration grants, Oregon Community Path funding, our Power to the Pedal program launch, and our recent successful first in town free valet bike parking at the El Tigre Festival. Tigard continues to find new ways to demonstrate a sustained commitment to safety for every road user out there. And we are immensely proud of all of that. At the moment, we're focused on launching 2 important planning projects under this Complete Streets umbrella. The first I've already mentioned, that's the electric mobility strategy. The second is the Safe Streets and Roads for All Comprehensive Transportation Safety Plan. This is, of course, in addition to our ongoing effort to resolve the jurisdictional issues and safety hazards that are ongoing and plaguing us on Hall Boulevard. And finally, a look inside our part of the Total Tyler project, and I mentioned this. There are a lot of reasons to share a little bit of this, one of which is that one of our senior planners, Susan Shanks, supported by a few others in the department, Susan's spending all her time on this project, and others are spending considerable amount of time. The Community Development Department is lead on the enterprise permitting and licensing module, but we're not the only department that will use this software. Public Works and the Police Department also issue licenses and permits. We've configured most of our business processes, which involves inputting workflow steps, creating data collection fields, automating fee calculations, developing procedural workarounds and GIS-based rules for customer alerts, and uploading fee schedules and charge codes. This is our business. We're moving it into a whole new platform. It's complex. We're now entering the validation and testing phase, which involves many more internal and external stakeholders to make sure that these new configurations actually work like they're supposed to. We're learning about the testing materials that we will need, who needs to create those materials, and what the schedule will be. And all of that's being done in coordination with utility billing, enterprise asset management, and customer experience teams. This is not a Tyler update, it's a community development update. Just want you to know we're doing our part. It's a lot of work there. And that concludes my presentation for this evening. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions or carry them back to the outstanding team that I get to work with every day. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Questions? Okay, Council President Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. So let's go back a few slides. Just a couple of questions. So for the climate-friendly and equitable communities, I know we are doing that next week, so I won't get into the weed, but just a quick question about the status of the litigation that brought against that rulemaking.
Have you heard? I have not heard.
Okay, so it's still tied up in the courts system.
I believe so.
River Terrace 2.0, so project kickoff in January 2024. Metro has a deadline for when that should be finished, right? So it should be about 2 years. About
Yes.
2 years. The
Yes,
planning should be finished
Mhm.
within up to 2 years. So when does the annexation take place? Do you know?
I think that letters will go out either in December or January, letting property owners know that we're turning that process on. And we just need to get our processes set up to be able to receive those. And we'll do that in 2024.
Okay, so 2024. Okay.
Of course, it's up to the property owners, but we'll be encouraging it to happen. And I don't know that we've heard of any holdouts.
Okay. And lastly, about the electric mobility strategy, I've been talking with the mayor and city manager about the possibility of offering Tigard resident a rebate for buying e-bikes. And I think it's doable, but we probably need a partner to administrate that because, as you point out, staff is quite busy doing that. So, but right now, so there are possible pathways, but right now I just want to gauge my fellow counselors' interests. So the staff knows that they're okay to go forward. That would you be supportive of offering a electric bike rebate system for Tiger residents? Is that something you will be interested in seeing going forward?
Yeah, I think I'm always interested in something that helps further electric mobility. I know there's movement at the state level to potentially provide. There's also PSIF in the city of Portland that will be granting. I think there's some concern of the quality of bikes that we'd be providing money to. So I would hope that we have some sort of standard in place. But always good to use other people's money if possible. So if the state does have that, I think I'd like them to pay for it first, but if not, certainly something to consider. So thank you for raising that, Council President. Who?
Yeah, I would definitely say that I support, and of course, more info as it comes in, but I think that it's a great idea, so.
Likewise, I support it, but just need to be educated a bit more in kind of how that funding would work. And I appreciate even the quality of bikes, so just a lot to learn, but interested to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions too, but I recently read a news article on Bloomberg July 7th. There's just several programs in other cities, and they are very popular. And in Denver, it says that average recipient uses their new e-bike in lieu of their car 3 to 5 times a week. So as wonderful as EV are, they are still cars, right? So they still take up space and lots of energy. So, if it sounds like the council are interested, someone.
City Manager Reinermer wanted to jump in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to, after the comments you made, I think the path forward would be for us to come back with a process that we could look at following. We've had some initial conversations, Kenny, Dave Roth, Emily, and I, on this. To your point of having partners and probably a regional, sub-regional approach, potentially a state approach is something that we'll be looking at. And I think Dave has had initial conversations with ODOT's representative who's leading some of these efforts too. So what I would suggest is we come back maybe after the first year with just a high-level review of some of the paths forward that we could look at to make sure that if we do this, learn from the cities. I think Denver was a good example. You mentioned it, Dave mentioned it too. It's one of them that has a successful program, but they're oversubscribed for the funding they have. So there's just a lot of the nuances that we'd want to understand. But I think the theme that we've kind of heard so far is looking at it as that regional type approach, larger than just the city of Tiger. But we can come back with more. So.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah. Councilor Wolf?
Just a comment. Thank you very much, Kenny. Just a lot of really exciting things moving forward, and appreciated the report. So thank you.
Youth Councilor Vogel?
Just echoing what Councilor Wolf said.
I have questions.
First, I actually thank you. Does everybody have their mics off? I'm just hearing some weird feedback. Okay, thank you. I want to echo kind of what you were just saying. Thanks. In a board and committee interview last week, just unprompted, I had a local business owner who was very complimentary of the permitting department and the process that she went through. She was not, clearly there were issues and stumbles and those sorts of things, but she said none of it originated with the city and the employees. They were all really helpful. And so I just want to pass that along as well, that what wasn't necessarily a great experience just because of all the hurdles, the city actually made easier because of the process and the partnership. So I think that's incredible, right? Like there's always bumps and bruises along the ways, especially with construction projects, and it can be incredibly frustrating if who you're relying on and permitting and inspecting is not helping you out. It can make it that much worse. So many kudos to our employees who are really making a difference and making that process better. And, Tigard is open for business. Come on over. We've got lots of incentives. I am looking forward to the downtown parking survey coming back. Last night at my meet with the mayor, the downtown parking was a huge subject of concern, especially with the apartments going in and different things. So we actually got into a really interesting conversation about goals and, you know, expectations coming at it from different angles and those sorts of things. So I think our community is very much going to look at, if we could make sure to, I guess, talk about it publicly, that this study is coming back before us, hopefully here soon. And then
I
you
believe
asked
on
my...
the 12th.
Oh, go ahead.
I believe on the 12th of December, it's coming back.
Yeah, excited for that.
Yep.
So,
And it's interesting, you know, not to interrupt you, Mayor, but
Yeah.
we talk about these projects, but really community development is just one giant project. And so when we're talking about downtown parking, and we're talking about e-bikes, and we're talking about climate, and we're talking about curbs, and it's all the same. It's just we get stuck in certain habits of thought and habits of behavior in a changing world. And so it is really useful, I think, for us to be having updates like this one, where we look at the whole portfolio, so that when you're out talking to your constituents, as I'm sure you did, Madam Mayor, you're able to have a conversation that is informed by more than just today's frustration with whatever the issue might be. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate being able to help. I know my staff appreciates being able to help with those conversations, because they can be difficult. But the world is changing, and the way we get around has to change, and I won't do a soapbox thing.
Well, I was up on it yesterday for you. It wasn't, I think it was just, again, what you were speaking to. The gentleman's perspective was he has to get in his car to get everywhere. And so that means everybody gets in their car to go everywhere, because everybody only wants to drive, and there's just not enough space to park downtown, and all of those sorts of things. So we got into a really interesting discussion about the challenges, but also the potential with the parking study to partner with private businesses together and those sorts of things. They said, there's parking downtown. There just, again, isn't necessarily parking where you want or available parking, because when you look at, you know, the picture from above, there's a lot of pavement in our downtown area. And so, you know, talking about anyway, so I'm trailing on, but yes, I was up on that soapbox yesterday with you.
Thank you.
And Council President Hu sort of asked my question about River Terrace, because when I did the Mayor Monday, I was asked the timeline, and quite frankly, I wasn't sure about, you know, sort of when we expect not only the annexation, but potentially even, you know, housing or different things being built. Do you have a general estimate on how far out it might be?
So 2 years to do this community plan,
Yep.
in the best of all cases. And then we adopt a zoning map, and that turns on the switch for development. I'd be very surprised to see construction starts before 2026. And that's a best case
Yeah.
scenario, but that's what we're shooting for. I will also remind everybody that some of what we're attempting to do in River Terrace 2 hasn't been done before, insofar as we intend to make it a new greenfield development area that's affordable. That's a challenge. That's carbon responsible. That's a challenge. That really prioritizes middle housing, where we don't have a lot of middle housing in Tigard or anywhere in the region. Honestly, that's new. So it's a very ambitious, aspirational planning area, and that doesn't mean it's going to necessarily go any slower, but there's a lot to figure out there.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see it. You know, many of you know I live in River Terrace, and so I see the construction and the housing going up around me, and it's been really a wonderful experience in the community that's being built out there. I think, you know, historically, younger families move into newer homes, and so my street is full of young families, and I drive home and garages are open and kids are scootering around, and, you know, my daughter immediately says, I need my scooter and helmet, like before we even get out of the car. And, you know, we spend time together, and I think that sort of community is one that I hope everyone can find that's right for them in the community in Tigard in which they want to live. But I talk about River Terrace 1.0 all the time around the state and even the country, kind of even just the way that we've mixed housing types within my neighborhood. It's been a really cool experience to be able to talk about firsthand.
Well, as somebody who saw the place and was actually brought here in 2012 to try to get something that felt like a neighborhood out there where when I came there was nothing but farms and fields. That is really heartwarming, and it proves that it can be done and we can do it better. We can continue to improve on that. But greenfield development, you know, it's notorious for being kind of soulless and truly car dependent and not very community oriented, just because of the way the home building industry has evolved in this country and the way suburbs are usually built. And to be able to kind of buck that trend is something that Tigard should be really proud of. And I'd like to see us continue to build on that.
Yeah, me too. Any additional questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Asher.
Thank you. I'm sorry for my late entry.
We filled the time with activities coming up in Tigard.
Thank you.
We don't have any non-agenda items this evening. We will go into executive session to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public disclosure under ORS 192-6602F. All discussions are confidential, and those present may disclose nothing from the session. Representatives of the news media are allowed to attend executive sessions as provided by ORS 192-6604, but must not disclose any information discussed. No executive session may be held for the purpose of taking any final action or making any final decision. Executive sessions are closed to the public. The executive session will be followed by a second executive session to discuss real property negotiations under ORS 192-6602E. The same provisions apply. The City Council will adjourn after the executive session. Thank you so much. Good night, Tigard.